break and change what to partake, cause none of them won't ever get comfortable in your walkway. My job is to aware you, fully loaded, prepare you for all of the above that I'm never letting get near you. But still in all, give you every advantage I found. Couldn't find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, I've been down, cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
But when you become a father, you have to learn how to teach every day while you're learning. So that's really what I mean by, welcome to the real world.
And then also too, I like the critical point when you says parenting is often referred as a thankless job. And going back to your childhood, you put a key thing on affirmation. Like your parents would tell you you're smart, but that's it. But that affection part that was missing. So how do you, as a parent, separate logic and emotion when it comes to, because again, we're a tribal being and sometimes we want that affirmation sometimes, like you're doing a good job to make you feel good. But when you don't get it, how do you separate the two?
Yeah, it's tough. The best way to separate the two is to not even have yourself in the habit of seeking that, because you don't want to get in the habit of, and I wrote that in the book, you don't want to get in the habit of doing things for affirmation. And a lot of times people do that and they end up feeling empty, because whether or not you get the affirmation or not, it's still a long, short-lived feeling. So I also write in the book, you probably haven't got to that part yet, but it's more so about challenging yourself to do things and work harder. Like you want to have the goal is you achieved it because you worked hard, right? Not because you want to hear you're smart or you want to impress or prove anything. You genuinely want to get in the habit of challenging yourself every day.
Definitely. And then another key point was in your chapter 2, the chemical head start. I know men cannot relate of having a child because the baby is inside the mother, but you also, you talk about, in a way we do, and it's important to create that bond with the mother and create the relationship with the baby, even though the baby is not born, but create that relationship in the beginning. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Right. Yeah. That's one of my favorite chapters in the book. That time when the mother is pregnant, and I know you've seen, I explained it a lot scientifically so men can understand the sacrifice she's making. But what's going on is a lot of men don't understand the chaos in her body is being projected outward. And that's you getting caught in that pregnant bubble. So it's just like her dealing with the chaos in her body. You have to deal with the projected chaos and you have to survive it, because that's the birth of your baby. So I don't think a lot of men realize the opportunity you get to prove yourself as a partner and a man when you can be there for her in these emotional moments that she doesn't understand at all. And she's upset with herself for being upset. She doesn't really get it. But if you give her the opportunity to pounce on you about it, she'll take it because she doesn't understand what's going on. So it's really up to you. And also understand that you're the clear-headed one. You're not going through as much chemical changes. So you don't have the excuse to be as angry as her. You really have to think about that.
Right. And it goes back to that patience. How do you learn to be patient? Because, men, we have a habit of not being patient. It's like if we get frustrated, when it comes to sports, when we're watching a game and we see like our team not doing well, we get frustrated. You're like, you know what? I'm turning this off. You suck. You need to trade him. He's not good. Trade him. So how do you learn that patience? Because I think that's important.
Yeah, patience is it's key. And for me, I think my only advice I can really give is it's your viewpoint of parenting and what it means to have an offspring. If you can truly understand what it means to have, pass on your lineage, your genetics, your DNA, and your essence to another being and continue that on, if you can really take that seriously, I think patience is just something that over time it'll start to build and grow in you because it's at stake.
Definitely. And then also I love this quote that your father told you, once a man, twice a child. And that resonates with me because I'm still a grown child. I'm not going to lie. But I think it's important because in my perspective, I think when you have a child, it kind of brings that childlike out of you again when it comes to finding creating like a little mini you when it comes to things like you said, like sports, whether it's technology. So can you kind of dissect that quote that, that your father told you?
Yeah, that once a man, twice a child. It's special to me because it means so many different things. Like for him, it meant you're once in your life a man, considered a man, where you're at this age where you're legal and you're treading upward in physicality. That's manhood, and you have that one moment. And at another moment, you're a child, and at the end of your life as a senior, you're a child again, where you need help. But the way I broke the quote down is like you said, once you have a baby or a child, you're a child again. You're like, this is your childhood moment all over again. So you're in a new atmosphere and you have to learn how to connect with a child. And the one way to do that is to be a child. So that's important to me, because a lot of parents feel like because they know that they have that guardian child role in their head, they assume that the child should know that for some reason. And that's just not the case. You have to establish every aspect of friendship and trust with a child. So that's a big thing for me too. Yeah, that once a man, twice a child. You have to stay within that childhood mentality so you can connect with your child.
Definitely. And then also, this is the last question too, because I think this is important too. That goes back to what we talked about earlier, when you as a child, when your parents separated and you didn't really know how to understand it. Now you're as a parent, as a father. How do you explain to people who's going through like that early phases of a possibility of separation, and the mindset of just staying together because it's for the child, and how in a way that's bad, because what happens is the child see the dysfunction and that becomes a part of their trauma as a child. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit of, the bad aspect of staying together, even though it's not working for the child?
Right.
What's your
Yeah.
feeling on that?
Yeah, that happens a lot too, because first I want to say that happens because mainly once you guys are expecting a child, for the first time, both of you are truly thinking about life partnership forever. Like even if you expect to get married or whatever the case, whatever plans you have for each other, it can change at any moment. You can back out, you can never see each other again. But now that this child is here, it truly means that you have to know each other forever, And that, I think that shakes a lot of relationships, because then you start to hyperanalyze job aspects, finance, things like that. But you're absolutely right. You definitely cannot stay in a situation that's bad for you or draining for the child. And it's a tricky subject, mainly because it's important that a kid has both parents, It's 50-50, and you want the child to optimize 100 and get 100% of love. But at the same time, you won't be able to give the child your 50 if you're being siphoned off from the other side, and it's draining. So you really have to consider how important it is, and how, not really how important it is, but how much is it hurting you on the inside? Is it truly something that you can't communicate with your spouse? Because every hurdle that you get over with your spouse is just proof that you two can do something for your child, because there'll be many, many hurdles wrapped within your child, and that's just the first of many. So you just truly have to consider if it's something that is really harboring your soul of moving forward, or if it's really just a romantic thing that you can't get over because it's, this is your girl. And that's what's really the weight of it. And from there, you save yourself or you save your child, but you always stay engaged as a father. You never do anything out of spite and say, oh, if I can't have you, I'm not talking to the kid, or, you move away. You always stay engaged and make sure that child knows you.
Definitely, man. And then you definitely gave 100% love to this book, man. Even though I'm still I'm on chapter 2, towards the end of chapter 2, chapter 3 now. I enjoyed this book, man. I think the most important thing is that connection. And I think, I was skimming through the book, build a relationship with other dads, because sometimes what happens is other dads, they feel like they're lonely and they're on an island on their own. And I think this book kind of brings that sense of fraternity, because I think fatherhood is a fraternity.